This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Hey, friend, I know how this feels. Waking up exhausted after multiple trips to the bathroom and feeling embarrassed by sudden leaks. I used to be constantly on edge, searching for a restroom whenever I was out. Then I discovered Better Woman. I was skeptical at first, but 2 months in, everything changed. I experienced improved bladder control, no more heart-stopping moments when I laugh or sneeze, less urge to go, deeper and more restful sleep. I finally felt like myself again, confident and in control. Better Woman is natural, effective, clinically tested, and trusted by women for over 25 years. Ready to take back your control? Head over to BeBetterNow.com to order your supply today. That's BeBetterNow.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Use as directed. Individual results may vary.
Carboni's Pizzeria wants to fuel your playoff party. You can visit one of their 30-plus locations to enjoy delicious pizza and get ready for the playoff run, which now is in the Western Conference Finals. Find your nearest Carboni's today, carbonispizza.com.
Sam over on a biz jet. What's a biz jet?
Probably like a private
jet. Isn't that expensive?
That's a little bit more expensive, yeah.
More expensive than commercial first class, is it not?
Very much so. Yeah, very much so.
Thank you so much and great job with the show. We appreciate the kind words. Sam is a Minnesota sports treasure. We know that as well. This might be the best one. Will Adam Silver wear a suit with the Minneapolis skyline on it to Game 7 versus the Knicks in the NBA Finals?
It's going to be a great question if it's Knicks-Wolves. Commissioner's a little bit smarter than the commissioner of the WNBA in that regard, I think.
Do you think we could convince Halvey to drive to Atlanta, pick up Sam, and drive him back? I'm not sure Sam would.
No, Sam doesn't want to drive.
No, definitely
Halvey would do it.
But Sam's big, 6'7", but maybe we get him one of those real special luxury vans.
Carry limo.
Of course, that would still be quite a drive.
Yeah,
that's probably not.
I think our best hope is just
to work.
Do a GoFundMe on the show to bring Sam Mitchell.
You think that would be it?
Yeah,
you might.
Our audience could, because if KG was involved, what if KG was involved for the finals? Then we could.
Well, my guess is if the Wolves get to the finals, KG would be here.
He talked about it last year.
Did he talk about that?
Yeah, he talked about he'd have to pull up because it was going to be Boston and Minnesota potentially. Right. So he was ready for it.
Well, I will, if you listen to Sam carefully, above and beyond, the positivity, he did every once in a while throw in a cautionary word. And the biggest is the biggest issue, right? I think we could say, especially after last night, is the carelessness with the ball. The Wolves, I think, and this is not all good, deep down realized we're better than Golden State without Steph and with a Jimmy Butler who didn't want any part of it. He just didn't. But if you're going against Oklahoma City, and I even say Denver, you cannot be that careless with the ball. You will get eaten alive, especially Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
I think you'll get eaten alive. You have to realize that whatever casualness you thought you could get away with in a series that you ultimately won in 5, I do not think that would translate to the next level. Edwards had, was it 7 turnovers last night or 6?
I'll pull up the box score. He had 7.
7. Now, he had also, I think, a career high, 12 assists, did he not?
Yes.
And that speaks to the other issue that we got into with Sam on the positive side, which you and I have talked about to a certain degree as well, that he's not forcing as much. If the play calls for getting the ball from point A to point B and letting somebody else score, he's very willing to do that. And what is clearly happening, I'll be curious to see if it'll translate, because these series tend to be their own entities, right? You can't always assume that because somebody looks great in one series that they're going to look great the next.
It's true.
You really can't. That's what makes them fascinating. Sometimes it's a matchup issue. Sometimes a player comes back to the pack, whatever. But the confidence, you can see it growing in Julius Randle, the comfort, the almost athletic arrogance with every performance. Can you not? You can just see it. It's just growing right in front of our eyes. And this is a guy who obviously had a high pedigree and, was an all-star.
He's been all NBA
but he
once.
had no playoff success. Zero. Individually or collectively until he got here. And I think he can now see, all right, people have more comfort with the way he plays now because it's translating, right? It's part of a larger, he's a part of the collective in a way now that has tremendous value. And I don't know if we'll look back and say that he flat out humbled Draymond Green or neutered Draymond Green. Maybe this is Green when he knows he's beaten, he can be gracious. I don't know. But he had his way with Day-Day. It was a mismatch between the two of them. And that was a significant part. If Golden State was going to have any chance to steal it or extend it, it was going to be because Draymond was going to have a great series, and maybe and take advantage of the matchup, and that was not at all the case. He was utterly and completely, I don't say abused, but he was beaten when they were head-to-head almost all of the time, and there was no intimidation factor. There was no fear that I sensed that anybody played with against Draymond.
The Fan and BigDeck.com. I want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks. It is our national cash contest. 4 o'clock keyword is happy. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword happy.
Is it time? This going to sound crazy because KOC just signed a contract extension. Is he due another raise on the basis of a revelation in a new quarterback-related book? We'll get to that story with Kevin Seifert and his assessment of the 2025 Vikings.
Hey, friend, I know how it feels, waking up exhausted after multiple trips to the bathroom and feeling embarrassed by sudden leaks. I used to be constantly on edge, searching for a restroom whenever I was out. Then I discovered Better Woman. I was skeptical at first, but 2 months in, everything changed. I experienced improved bladder control, no more heart-stopping moments when I laugh or sneeze, less urge to go, deeper and more restful sleep. I finally felt like myself again, confident and in control. Better Woman is natural, effective, and trusted by women for over 25 years. Ready to take back your control? Head over to BeBetterNow.com to order your supply today. That's BeBetterNow.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Use as directed. Individual results may vary.
Schedule. Stay tuned.
The legendary Bryan Adams is bringing his Roll with the Punches tour to Target Center on November 26th. Don't miss this epic night of rock anthems and unforgettable hits. And tickets are on sale now. All the details are at KFAN.com. The keyword is calendar.
Seifert joins via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline, ESPN and ESPN.com. Was I too optimistic yesterday when, upon going through the Vikings schedule start to finish, not in drips and drabs, but literally start to finish during the top 5 and 5, so Gaardsy would give me the next game and I'd say W or L. I had the Vikings going, what did I say, 13-4?
13-4.
13-4. Is that a little optimistic?
I would say so. I did hear you do that. You were going very fast, so I don't know if maybe your instincts are just too optimistic, and if you had time to think,
they always are. You know that my instincts are always too optimistic. You know me.
They always, you're never one to jump to a negative.
No.
Conclusion. And so I gave you a pass on that. I think the schedule's a doozy. I think that there's no real soft. There's a few places where they could get helped out a little, but there's no real soft stretches. It starts very hard and ends very hard, and there's not a lot of help in the middle. I think they have a really good team, though, and so I think that they should be one to be a team that should be expected to to be able to conquer a schedule like this. Whether it's 13 wins, I don't know, but I thought before the schedule came out that there should be a playoff team, and I still think that. So whatever record that takes, 10 wins, 11 wins, I think they can and should get there.
So here's where I'm confused. I look at the schedule early and I say, I don't think it's that meaty. Of course, you start at Chicago, but I still got to see it from the Bears, to be quite honest. And then Atlanta. Cincy's here. They're good, but I don't think they're unbeatable. Then you got the European two-step. So by the time you get to the Eagles, why can't they be 1, 2, 3, that's 3, 4, 5. Why can't they be 4-1 or 5-0?
I mean, they could be, but it's required. The reason that the beginning of the schedule seems tough to me is that you're dropping your first-year starting quarterback into a very high-profile set of games.
True.
You could say that maybe those opponents are not at the top of the list for who is taking money for Super Bowl champions, but you start off with Monday Night Football, you go to Sunday Night Football, you have 2 nationally televised games in Europe where your schedule is, at the very least, all kind of changed around. And, we think J.J. McCarthy is going to be pretty good eventually. We don't know if he's going to be good at the start of his first season as an NFL player. And so that's an intense indoctrination for him, and maybe he's up to it. We'll find out, but that still seems like a lot to ask for him. And as good of a team as they have around him, they need him to be at a certain level to be competitive in any game.
That's fair. So I think what you wrote was you believe that, and this is you just taking a shot at analyzing it like everybody else, that the Vikings they'll go into the last 2 weeks of the season still not having secured a playoff spot, that it could come down to basically what they do the last 2 weeks against, I believe, Detroit and Green Bay, correct? Yes.
And that's because it precedes what I think might be the hardest part of the schedule. Mm-hmm. There's a 5-game stretch where 4 games are on the road. 3 of them are legitimate bad weather possibilities. Seattle, Green Bay, and New York
Giants. Yeah.
And you could say, well, the Giants are in the Arch Manning sweepstakes already for next year's draft, but we'll see. What the situation is at that point. And I think Dallas is the other road team, and then there's a home game that's difficult as well in that group. And so that's it. So they're starting. So they start off the year in a very tough spot for a first-year starting quarterback. They have a bye. Then they are home against Super Bowl champion Eagles. Maybe that's a good spot to be playing them in. But then as the season goes on, they hit that really tough spot. And so it's not like they're going to get a whole lot of chance to take their breath, catch their breath before plowing into that period. And then they come home for those last 2 home games. So I don't know exactly what the win total is going to be there, but if we think the NFC North, if the NFC North is as good as we think they are, they're going to have to, there's not going to be a 7 or 8 win team competing for a wild card spot at the end of the season. So I think those last 2 games are going to be really important for them to win to make sure they get into the playoffs, largely because of that stretch that precedes it.
I'm going to need your translation help on a tweet that you retweeted that reads as follows. Detroit is tied for second most net rest differences versus opponents going to each game since the 0-2 realignment.
Excuse me?
Are we really going there? Is that what I think it is? And why? I just say, why, Kevin Seifert?
Because it always comes down to the analytics, right? That's why I retweeted it so I wouldn't have to summarize it. But basically, rest differential is how much more or less time between games you have compared to your opponent that week. So in other words, if you both played on Sunday and the next game Sunday, there's no rest differential. But if you played the Monday night game and your opponent played on the previous Sunday, then it's -1. And so it's generally considered, to be advantageous to have the most rest possible. And if you have more rest or less rest than your opponent, then there's some thought and some research that can affect the outcome of games, or at very least the outcome of bets against the spread. And so that's been tracked even before sports gambling was really a big thing in the NFL from a legal perspective, as something that people who went next level on the schedule would look at to see how that affects. And it basically means that the Lions this season have as much extra rest on a weekly basis compared to their opponents than any team has had since the divisional realignment. So it's a way of saying that the Lions have, amongst one of the many advantages and disadvantages that you can have in a schedule, one of the bigger advantages is this year.
You realize what you're setting up here. You're setting up the introduction of the schedule loss to the NFL. This has been an NBA thing that's driven some of us crazy. You're handing, you and the Jackals who are following this stuff are handing teams that, schedule loss. You can't even blame them for losing that game. It's a schedule loss.
Well, maybe so, but the interesting thing is the NFL has its own analytics on it, and they published something this week that, not surprisingly, tells you that it really doesn't have as big of an effect on wins and losses as some other people might suggest. So but even today there's been a lot of interviews done by the guy who sort of coordinates a lot of the NFL schedule talking about, and one of the things he talked about was rest differential that they do look at for every team, and they do occasionally make adjustments in the schedule before it becomes finalized to even it out or to address some obvious inequities, or if you have less rest than your opponent in 3 straight weeks and that kind of, they actually do. It is a part of it. And so is it the reason that a team wins or loses any given week, or has a good season or a bad season? Maybe not, but it's not completely insignificant when you think about the value of each day of recovery from one game to the next. Speaking,
we're chatting with Kevin Seifert, ESPN.com. Speaking of shock jockery, was it you who posted a story basically making it sound like Max Brosmer is going to be the steal of free agency, and by the end of October, might be threatening J.J. McCarthy to be the Vikings starter?
The headline was aggressive. The story basically points out that he's a guy that caught Kevin O'Connell's eye, not this year, but last year, even before, days after he got on campus at Minnesota during that 2024 pro day, and that he's kept an eye on him and has a lot of the characteristics that O'Connell looks for in quarterbacks, and that he liked what he saw in rookie minicamp, which is not where teams are made or not made. But they did pay him a fair bit in full guarantees. I think it was like $246,000, which tells you that they had to compete for him probably, but also that they have some level of conviction about what he, might represent over time for them, and which is a potential backup. I don't think that there's any reason to believe that they think he could one day compete with J.J. McCarthy, nor do they want him to. But when you talk about rookie minicamps and UDFAs, and I think he was certainly one of the bigger names there, and as somebody who I know for a fact that they have some positive thoughts about his potential staying power.
When did KOC agree to a contract extension? Do you know the date or the approximate date?
Well, it's basically within a week of their playoff loss, so probably the third week of January. Would be around January 20th or so, I think.
I ask because I'm wondering if he is due for another either extension or raise on the basis of the Caleb Williams revelations in a new quarterback book. Do tell what this is all about.
Yeah, so my colleague at ESPN, Seth Wickersham, has spent a couple years writing sort of a definitive book about quarterbacks at all levels and what they mean both on the field and in society and all that. And so part of it was getting inside the Williams camp prior to the draft last year and over the course of his rookie season. And what he reported in an excerpt that was on ESPN today is that the family had a lot of concerns about going to Chicago, which you may know is not an organization that has fostered many strong quarterbacks over the years. And after going to the combine and meeting actually with Kevin O'Connell during one of those speed meeting, 15-minute meetings, that Caleb Williams told his father, I got to find a way to get to Minnesota. And that sort of launched them on this thing where they were trying to figure out if there's a way to bypass the NFL draft. And unfortunately, there's not. Many quarterbacks have tried it.
Yeah.
The only ones who have had any success were John Elway and Eli Manning, who convinced the teams that drafted them to immediately trade them. And there was unlikely that the Bears would ever trade him to the Vikings. And so ultimately, he went to Chicago and had the season that we all know he had. But if nothing else, this will raise the level of worship from the football intelligentsia towards Kevin O'Connell to an even higher level, if that was possible. But I don't see that it. I don't see it having massive implications for the relationship between the two franchises.
When will you have your first shot at KOC to get him to comment on the report?
I would imagine that, I think that they're not, OTAs don't actually start until the week after Memorial Day.
Okay.
So Memorial Day is like May 26th, and so there'll be an OTA at some point after that, maybe as early as May 27th. I'll be sure to pass along the quote at that time, but we may not see him before then.
Okay. All right, because I don't know what he'll say. My guess is he'll say, aw, shucks. He'll say, well, yeah, I enjoyed my conversations with Caleb. I don't want to go too far deep into that. He plays for another team, but he probably won't, I'm guessing he won't mind it.
It came up last year more with Anthony Richardson from the Colts,
right,
where he kind of talked to him after the game, and Richardson was having a hard time at that moment. But he also, there was they had an exchange with he and Caleb Williams after the Bears game. I'm not sure if it was in Chicago or the one here.
Oh, that's right.
But they also, there were pictures, and Caleb Williams talked about it. And
yeah.
I think he said that Kevin told him something along the lines of, it's going to be really tough to compete with you in this division, but it's going to be great, kind of thing. And just, he very much seems like he wants to pump up some of these guys in the moment, at least when they've had some short-term struggles.
One of the other reports in there I find hard to believe. I think it was something to the effect of that Caleb would find when he'd come into the film room for the quarterback meeting, there'd be no coach to help him through what he needed to concentrate on, or, breaking down the tape with him. That doesn't sound. I'm not doubting the possibility that the tutelage he was getting was not state of the art with the Bears. But does that sound reasonable? That literally there'd be nobody in there to help him out to isolate these plays, or let's concentrate on this or that?
I don't know if he meant he was going in on his own and nobody was coming with him, or he was assigned to go study film and nobody accompanied him. But Seth Wickersham was on ESPN 1000 today in Chicago and was asked about that. And he actually said that Alex Smith, the old quarterback from San Francisco, and had told him the same thing, that when he was in San Francisco, nobody showed him how to watch film, and he would end up watching it alone. So whether he somebody ignored him, or whether he there wasn't. I think that the point was there wasn't an infrastructure in place to have somebody going through it with him. It was just sort of, and they didn't have a veteran backup quarterback either, as you know.
Right.
And so there wasn't anybody along those lines either. And what Seth said is you see why, if he called it a tragedy, you see why some quarterbacks who are really good in college and really pumped up as massive NFL prospects go to some organizations, and you just never really hear from them again. And that was an example. So it definitely happened. I don't know what the context of it was, if nobody was helping him with additional stuff, or they were telling him to go watch stuff by himself, or what. But Seth said that there were other quarterbacks, including Alex Smith, over the years who have told him the same thing.
So, and in all honesty, that's why I really can't get mad at quarterbacks trying to be more aggressive about influencing where they go, even to the point of being Jackassian and threatening. Because the Bears are the perfect illustration of this. they have been a mess at that position. And it was dysfunctional last year on several levels. So I know fans want to, they want to always get mad at the player, like, well, who are you to try to, manipulate the system? The draft's in place for a reason. By God, you go to the team that you're supposed to go to. I can't say that I blame a player. I'm actually surprised maybe that more of them haven't tried to go through whatever shenanigans necessary behind the scenes with would-be agents to try to influence the outcome here at all.
If you're Caleb Williams' dad, you're saying, I'm right. I was right.
Yeah.
Look what happened.
Exactly.
I want him to go to a good organization. And it goes to the Kevin O'Connell quote that he didn't originate it, but he said it last year, was that, organizations, fail quarterbacks much more often than quarterbacks fail organizations. And so if you're somebody who's, a family member of a top quarterback or a loved one or like a good friend or the agent, yes, that's huge. And it's not like you're, I guess it would be great if Caleb Williams came in and said, I don't care where the situation is. I don't care who the coach is or what. I am going to turn this around. I am going to work harder than everybody. I'm going to do everything, to the nth degree. And I have full confidence I can lead this entire franchise and put them on my shoulders and move forward. But there's not that also isn't necessarily reality either. And so everyone knows how different it is to have the kind of infrastructure J.J. McCarthy has around him compared to the infrastructure that Caleb Williams had around him last year. And I don't know, maybe it'll show this year for J.J. Maybe it won't be until the future seasons, but the proof is in the pudding, and you see, and there's probably more teams in the NFL that don't know how to do it than do.
Yes.
And that's tragic for the game. It's tragic for the owners who are trying to, to create the most competitive game possible and get the most out of the players they have while they're still physically able to play the game, and for the fans as well. All the great careers that never happened because of the what appears to be a not rare ability to ruin quarterbacks' careers.
Real quick before we wrap up, I thought I also read that you wrote the Vikings in terms of strength of schedule tied for the fifth hardest schedule in the league. Opponents with a .557 winning percentage. Now we all know how that can change year to year. The over/under for the Vikings on victories is 8.5. I thought I read the Bears have one of the 5 or 6 hardest schedules. Didn't they finish with a horrible record? So I thought the rules were you get a better schedule. Is that all based on who you're playing? What division you're playing? A
lot of that strength of schedule is based on the division you played in because you played 6 games. So the Bears' strength of schedule is harder than the Vikings because the 3 division teams that the Bears are playing are the 3 teams that went to the playoffs, whereas the Vikings' strength of schedule is based on 2 of the 3 division teams that they play when going to the playoffs. So it's a little misleading. Yeah. I don't love the strength of schedule from the previous season. And at the very least, you should take the division teams out of it because those are constant every year anyway. But that explains that.
The opening game of the whole season is Dallas-Philly. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Should we be bitter about that? Does that fall into the classification of, Dallas? They haven't done a damn thing. But there they are again. The whole they're starting the whole thing. You can't help yourself, can you? The NFL can't help itself.
No, I think that the same with Chiefs Cowboys on Thanksgiving. When the layup is there for you, you have to take it, right? I mean, it's still business. You're still trying to attract as many eyes as possible. And in terms of the teams that were on Philly's home schedule this year, I think that was a pretty obvious pick.
Thank you, Seifert. We will be in touch. Thanks as always.
Okay, Dan.
Kevin Seifert, ESPN.com. You can read his fine work there. In fact, he's got a nice primer regarding the Vikings 2025 schedule. Perhaps I was a little bit overzealous, and Seifert's kind of right. I was. Part of it, I think, was maybe I was overreacting to last year. I think we did the same thing, and I think I had the Vikings winning 4 games. And I remember I said, well, if they don't beat the Giants, they're going to start 0-6.
A lot of us thought that.
And they ended up being better than that. So I figured, okay, I'll go the other way.
Overcorrection.
And the beauty of it is then if the team doesn't match your prediction, you go, what happened?
Yeah.
You had every opportunity to have a gaudy record again.
We're onto that trick.
And you didn't do it. You're aware of it?
Yeah, I'm onto that trick.
Sorry.
I've observed that over the years.
Fooling people just a bit. All right, let's take a quick pause here. Lots of good text to catch up on. A couple of other subjects to get into. Top 5 at 5 yet to come as well.
Hey, friend, I know how it feels, waking up exhausted after multiple trips to the bathroom and feeling embarrassed by sudden leaks. I used to be constantly on edge, searching for a restroom whenever I was out. Then I discovered Better Woman. I was skeptical at first, but 2 months in, everything changed. I experienced improved bladder control. No more heart-stopping moments when I laugh or sneeze, less urge to go, deeper and more restful sleep. I finally felt like myself again, confident and in control. Better Woman is natural, effective, and trusted by women for over 25 years. Ready to take back your control? Head over to BeBetterNow.com to order your supply today. That's BeBetterNow.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Use as directed. Individual results may vary.
How about Farm Aid 40 coming to Minneapolis? Willie Nelson, Neil Young, Dave Matthews, and our guys trampled by turtles, by the way. Saturday, September 20th at Huntington Bank Stadium. Celebrate 40 years of music, food, and family farming. Tickets go on sale May 16th. In the business, we call that tomorrow. Full details at KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Sooner or later, we got to get a playoff victory, though, don't we? KOC is apparently the envy of every quarterback, great offensive mind, either in or connected to the National Football League.
Seems
but
like
we
it.
got to have, because you can't, and that's all. There's nothing wrong with it, but you can't. There's no banner for that, right? You can't put up a banner that says Caleb Williams wanted to play for the Vikings or for KOC.
The banner would say, your quarterback loves our coach. Your quarterback wishes he was coached by our coach.
That would be the trolling. Now, did I see what? There are now, of course, 1 million schedule videos for various teams that they put out on their own, some of them pithier than others.
Yep.
Which was the one that was trolling the fact that the Minnesota Wild hasn't made it out of the first round in 10 years?
I feel like that was the Chargers, wasn't it?
Russo, that's right, because Russo brought that to my attention. Did you see that?
Yeah, I didn't. I just saw the screenshot of his tweet. I didn't really do a deep dive on it, but yeah, calling the Wild 8-time quarterfinal runner-up.
That's cold, isn't it?
It's very cold, but
is it?
The truth cannot be controversial.
It's not deniable, is it? There's some state of hockey people who are I don't understand why, but they're not very happy with me. And like I said, you can be mad if you want. You can be frustrated, but don't shoot the messenger, okay? Because this is a result. You can write this down. This is a results-oriented business, the business of sports. It just is. And so sooner or later, if, at least at the professional level, the whole state of hockey mantra is to mean something, you have to do something with it, don't you? I mean, you really do. You have to make some kind of hay, and we haven't done that, and we haven't come close to doing that. And look, I don't think anybody who listens to this show would suggest that over the years, certainly over the decades, that the Wolves were awful, that we had any difficulty hammering the team, pounding away on the team, challenging management of the team, really trying to stand tall for who? You, the Rube fan, the long-suffering fan. On the other hand, if what is happening now is a dramatic improvement, I'll say again, ultimately you're going to be judged at the highest level, and that means winning titles, right? There's no question about that. And sooner or later, for this Wolves group to break through, that's probably what they're going to have to do. But given the backdrop, given what else we're dealing with, to reach, even now, just simply the Final Four for the second consecutive year is an impressive accomplishment. And so I'm not going to apologize for saying right now it feels like the state of basketball. And when you factor in the Lynx, and they should be factored in because I think they play basketball, right?
They do.
And what they came off of last year, and the way they are positioned, at least at the start of the season for this year, results matter. We just haven't had nearly enough happen at the pro level in the state of hockey, at least with this iteration of pro hockey, right? North Stars had some moments. That's a long time ago. That franchise doesn't exist here anymore.
That building is an IKEA, I believe.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you're exactly right. So I have no doubt that it annoys fallenness. I'm not responsible for the fact that the team the Wild lost 3 straight times to lasted 5 more games in their next round series. They're already eliminated. Vegas is out.
It was overtime last night.
I know. I was expecting that text. And it was. And a lot of the games were close. We're happy for you. Are we not? But we have to stop. We got to get over ourselves. I guess what I'm trying to say gently. We really do. We have to get over ourselves. Like, everybody wants to play here. Everybody knows about what hockey means to this state and so forth. And given the breadth of interest at every level, we've always acknowledged that. We are well aware of that. But I don't know how to break it to people. But this isn't the first place that pro hockey players say, well, that's where I got to go. I got to go to Minnesota. I guess if you overpay, you can get it done that way. But what largely and ultimately attracts people beyond the money, it's how they make runs. They're in the mix. We're not in the mix. Sorry, we're just not. The Minnesota Timberwolves, for the second consecutive year, are at the very least in the mix. There's 4 teams left. Well, there will be.
Yep.
Once it's determined. And you can look it up. They're one of the teams. And by the way, if they play terribly next round, we'll talk about it. I don't think we have any fear about discussing it. But I think it's probably hard for the hockey community that wants to, they sort of just want to hang their hat on, no, it's the state of hockey. But there's got to be some substance to that part of it on the pro side, I would say, and there isn't right now. Maybe this is about to change. We all know what a key offseason this is, what opportunities might be there, what trades might be available, what extra money might go towards adding some talent. Perish the thought, another center. I don't know. I mean, how many years have we been talking about that?
Since the team came here, I think.
I'll give you an example. You've been waiting for this for years. Yes, I have. Gaardsy has. Waiting for a magical little window to just pounce on the state of hockey, undeniable. This is a cute story. Rooting for the Wolves. They better close this out. Let me know last time the Wild got a number 1 or top 3 pick.
They're too good. They never have high draft picks.
So that's the Wolves' fault? Again, you can call it a cute little story. There are no hockey stories at the pro level right now. There just aren't. Give us some. And believe me, we'll talk about them. We'll talk about them endlessly throughout the month of May if they can get there. But they got to do something with it. They got to get there. And I know it hurts. Hockey fans are the most defensive in this town. We already know that. But the sports world does not revolve around you. It just doesn't. Especially when, again, how many teams make the playoffs? Is it 8 in each conference?
Yeah, 16 total. 16
teams make the postseason. It's not even that big of a deal. I don't think. It shouldn't be. And for whatever reason, bad luck, injuries, the other team is just better, whatever the case may be, we've not been able to break through. I'm not even going to say if. When they do, we'll be there. We'll certainly celebrate it. And the notion that, so this is how desperate this guy is. They better close this out. So if the Wolves don't win at all, we're supposed to what? Call for Finchie's head?
Trade Ant.
I mean, Minnesota Wild loves changing head coaches. They love it. One of the things I think we've learned through the Wolves is stability isn't a bad thing. It really isn't a bad thing. If you think you have the right coach, let him figure it out. Give him some time to piece this thing together. The dirty little secret about hockey is there are more changes among NHL coaches than any other sport. They get changed every 2 weeks, for God's sake. Is that a good look? I don't know. That sounds more like knee-jerkian reaction. If you want to call this a cute story, go ahead. But you're saying it, you're condescending about it, and you're being patronizing about it because it threatens you. Because you know you have nothing really to fight back with. And so my guess is there are many people in the hockey community that are going to be rooting against the Wolves, which is too bad. Because as we've said many times, the month of May would be delightful if we could actually go back and forth the entire month between Wild postseason developments and
great.
Wolves postseason developments.
We would take it. Oh, we would take it. Makes our jobs a lot easier.
I thought so. Top 5?
My top 5 favorite moments from another exhilarating Wild regular season. No, not really. I just couldn't think of anything else. Twins, Wolves, NBA, and there's a golf major going on right now as well.
There is?
PGA.
Oh.
Hey, friend, I know how this feels. Waking up exhausted after multiple trips to the bathroom and feeling embarrassed by sudden leaks. I used to be constantly on edge, searching for a restroom whenever I was out. Then I discovered Better Woman. I was skeptical at first, but 2 months in, everything changed. I experienced improved bladder control, no more heart-stopping moments when I laugh or sneeze, less urge to go, deeper and more restful sleep. I finally felt like myself again, confident and in control. Better Woman is natural, effective, clinically tested, and trusted by women for over 25 years. Ready to take back your control? Head over to BeBetterNow.com to order your supply today. That's BeBetterNow.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Use as directed. Individual results may vary.